You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and my co-host, Keelan Harvey, your local mortgage experts, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, May 26th show. We are here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and one show at a time. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we're here to answer any questions that you have or connect you with the guests that we have on the show today. 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio right now, another first-time guest on our show, Carrie Foley with Berkshire Hathaway, HomeServices Northwest Real Estate. Are we starting to see a turn in the real estate market? Welcome to the show, Carrie.
Thank you, Tina.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in. A little bit about Carrie. Carrie Foley is Northwest native, but spent several years overseas in Southeast Asia before returning to Seattle to attend the UW. After purchasing her first home at age of 19, what an accomplishment that was. She fell in love with a real estate sales process and pursue a career in real estate. 16 years in business, she is the #1 agent in her office and #7 countrywide for her annual production. Carrie tries to maintain some sensible of a work-life balance by spending time with her 2 kids and traveling domestic and internationally as much as possible.
So, Carrie, how the heck did we get here? How did our Seattle real estate market become so competitive?
Right. So really kind of goes back to economics 101. It's classic supply and demand. So really, if we look at the peak of the market in 2007, 2008, we actually had a very balanced supply of inventory to satisfy the demand. Still a growing market, but our new home starts were at an all-time high during that time frame. Now, in 2008, after the crash, new home builders pretty much just threw in the towel. I mean, we just quit building in the area. And so we started to see this very quick decrease in our available inventory. Now, our population in the Puget Sound area wasn't changing. In fact, it was still staying fairly stable and even growing compared to a lot of other cities across the country.
Yes.
So we had continued demand in the area, but we weren't adding the inventory we needed. So it wasn't until probably around 2013, 2014, and into 2015 that the new home builders started building again in our area. So now we're starting to see this slow, gradual increase in our inventory, but we had this 7 to 8 year backlog.
Yes.
That we're now trying to play catch up with.
So would you say that that's the difference in our, if we compare what we're dealing with right now in this market and, versus the peak in the market of 2007 and 2008, what differences are you seeing?
I would say the biggest differences are, again, just kind of goes back to the available supply of inventory.
Yes. Yep.
I would say probably back in 2013, where we really kind of just started to see a shift, we still had about 5.6 months of inventory throughout our MLS, which actually represents a very balanced market.
Yes.
When we think back to 2013, we're still thinking kind of a very depressed market, but that was kind of a very balanced, healthy market during that time. Since then, of course, we just haven't been able to keep up with the increasing demand. And so 2015, I think, is when we really started to take off. We probably had about 4.2 months of inventory in our MLS at that time. So that's when we start shifting towards this seller's market. And then if you compare that to currently in King and Snohomish County, we have 1.2 months of inventory, which is just, insanely low, really.
Wow. What's the trends been in the last year?
In the last year, our inventory has been growing. So we've been up 3.7% over the last year, which is fabulous. We desperately need that inventory. But our pending sales are up 5.7%. So still our pending sales are outpacing the inventory that we're adding. Wow. So that's what's causing this continued increase in prices. For just the last 12 months, our median price in King County is up 16.8% to a median price of $585,000. And in Snohomish County, we're up 13.3% to $425,000.
Yeah, wow.
So, I mean, those are huge numbers for 1 year.
So trends moving forward, let's say over the next year, what do you see changing or happening? With your crystal ball, Carrie.
I know, right? Right. I'd be much richer if I had that crystal ball.
I always say all experts are right 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Because it's true.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I would say over the next year, I think we are going to start to see a little bit of a leveling off. It's not going to be a drop. We're not going to experience a bubble. But there are some factors in play that I think will start to ease the insane growth. Of course, we've got, rising interest rates, which is going to affect buyer affordability. Also, we are starting to see some increased inventory. New home builders are definitely back in the market. New home starts are up. I still think it's going to be maybe a 3-year projection before we start to see the amount of new homes in our area to satisfy the demand. I'm starting to hear a lot more stories of people moving out of the area.
Yeah.
We're starting to see, some people, whether it's retirees leaving the area, job relocation. So that may ease just a little bit of our demand.
Okay.
We're also seeing just a little bit of buyer fatigue now. I mean, buyers have really put up with kind of a crazy seller's market the last couple of years. So I'm hearing some stories kind of around the water cooler now of a little bit of buyer fatigue. So I think with the rising interest rates, a little bit more inventory to help ease demand, and just buyers kind of saying enough. We're going to start to see just a little bit of leveling out. It's not going to be drastic, though.
Yeah.
Well, with all those things in mind, I mean, what should a current homeowner consider when timing the market? I mean, there's some pressures from many angles is what you're talking about. So
Sure.
Where do they stand at this point?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. My past clients or current clients asking me, is now the time to sell? When should we sell? And really my advice to any homeowner is that home ownership and moving, whether you're moving up, moving down, is such a personal decision that really don't worry about what's going on in the market or the economy. When it's right for you, it's right for you. Also, really in the Puget Sound area, we don't have much of a seasonal market. Puget Sound real estate market stays strong year round.
Yes.
So really, other than maybe just a tiny bit of a slowdown in, August, September, when it seems like all the, everybody goes on vacation and school's getting started, and maybe just a little bit around the holidays, really our real estate market is very strong and active year round.
So in things that you're seeing that sellers might be doing in this market that's being damaging to them, able to accomplish the best ending result, what would be that biggest mistake?
For buyers?
No, for sellers.
For sellers.
Yes.
The biggest mistake for sellers. Honestly, the biggest mistake for sellers that I have seen is overpricing.
Yeah.
Everybody is seeing in the news, in the media, they're hearing stories from their friends or family, how high prices are going. And so sellers maybe, right off the bat are going to think, well, I should price my home just that much higher. And really, it's a double-edged sword, and it's not successful. So probably the biggest mistake I see some sellers is just being a little too greedy, a little overzealous with their pricing. So definitely, consult with a real estate professional and price correctly for the market.
Well, that's what we have the shows here all about, because that's why
Absolutely.
you're here. And, really, again, shout out to the listeners. It really is about bringing the best of the best experts in here so that you can have all those areas covered when it comes to anything regarding your financing. Real estate, no exception to that.
And I mean, speaking of a seller's market and people getting fed up, are we going to see an end to this crazy market anytime soon? Or
in short, no. I do think that the Puget Sound real estate market is going to continue to stay strong, at least over the next 1 to 3 years. Just looking at the new home permit applications that are kind of in the pipeline right now, it's probably going to take at least 3 years for a lot of those to come to market. So I think we're going to continue to see, high demand and relatively low inventory for at least the next 3 years.
So buyers that are listening to the show right now in preparation to get ready for the market and what they're going to be dealing with out there, what advice do you have for them, Carrie?
For buyers now? So probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give to a home buyer is get a strong pre-approval in place up front. Know your financial capability. Take it as far through the underwriting process as possible so that when you go to make that offer, you're confident that you can make that offer, whether it's a price point or a closing date that you can hit, how we maneuver appraisals, things like that. So really working with a fantastic mortgage officer, on your team. And then, know the process. Don't feel rushed. I feel like a lot of buyers feel a lot of pressure in this market to quickly buy something. And, I always tell buyers, I'm not going to let you buy the first thing we see. We're going to get out there and we're going to take a look at the market. You are going to know, by the time we're done with this, you're going to walk into the house and know that that's the one, and you're going to feel confident, moving forward with the best, strongest offer.
Great advice.
So, Carrie, we know about the influx of people over the last couple of years and the water cooler talk of people that are deciding to move somewhere else that's just a little less expensive. Is Puget Sound going to continue to be a smart place to buy and invest in real estate? Or,
my dad always taught me that real estate will always be a winning investment. If you can stomach the natural ups and downs of any real estate cycle, because it will always happen. Real estate is a finite resource. Land is a finite resource. And certainly our global population is not going to decline, right? So given that we can't make more land and there will be continued demand for it, real estate, I think, will always be a win.
Your father was a wise man.
Indeed,
what
he
I've
was.
said for years is you can't lose in real estate
Right.
unless you're forced to sell in a bad market. So same thing, just a different way to say it. And I don't remember where I heard that, but I felt in so much confidence when I started in this industry about 22 years ago. And I was doing a lot of home buying seminars and was taking the stage, and that's what I was saying. And until I lived through it, that you can't lose in real estate unless you're forced to sell in a bad market. And people lost a ton of money, strategically or not, being forced in that market. So, it's great advice. It's the safest asset class historically that you can invest in. And a shout again for real estate. It's the only investment that you actually have to pay for regardless. You're either going to pay for a roof over your head or you're going to pay for something that you're owning and building wealth in. So appraisals, because there's there's appraisal challenges that happen to come up once in a while out there. And when you're helping your clients, your buyers, present a strong offer, what conversation are you having around that? Are you waiving appraisal contingencies? Are they paying higher than what if it comes in low? How are you consulting your clients there, Carrie?
Yes. So I first start out doing my own independent market analysis. I explain to the buyer that the list price was established by the seller and the listing broker. That's their opinion of value. I'll always give my opinion of value as well.
Okay.
And then we'll put our heads together and, decide kind of within that range that I've kind of come up with, fair market value, where are they comfortable going? Sometimes they're comfortable going higher than even my recommendation.
Okay.
Because perhaps we have already experienced, losing out on a couple of offers because things have gone higher than anticipated. So if they are comfortable and financially able to go higher than, what we think it might appraise for, then there are certainly a couple of options. Certainly when I'm representing a buyer, I always want to protect their best interests first and foremost. But given this market, sometimes we really have to put our neck out there a little bit. So certainly there are waived appraisals or agreement to come in with cash over appraisal to cover the difference.
Yeah.
But really, it's going to be very individual. And I'd really have to take a look at that particular buyer's abilities and comfort level in this process before I could give them some advice on how far we have to go.
Yeah, it makes total sense, really. It's an individual and having a conversation of where they're at, what they're willing to do to make that offer come through. Well, thank you so much, Carrie, for coming into studio. It was
Thank
great,
you, Carrie.
great having you here. And coming up next on The Money Hour, strategies for buying and selling in our market. Linda Keelan with Sterling Johnson Real Estate right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.